The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Let's listen as Lorraine Lapointe, coach, therapist, educator, speaker, and founder of Head Heart Synergy, brings together another enlightened guest to inspire and motivate us to move forward, achieve our dreams and desires, so that we experience midlife awakening.
And I'm your host, Lorraine Lapointe. Today we'll enjoy another candid conversation that reveals how to bring back a sense of balance and how to find forward focus. Today, take just a few moments to join us as we explore the possibilities and the perspectives that provide us with greater inner peace, power, passion, and purpose. Because that's what I call living at the edge of fulfillment in a midlife awakening.
Well, hello and welcome wherever you are in the world. I wonder, have you ever felt discounted or like set aside or maybe even discarded? Have you ever had someone who made you feel small or that you should keep quiet? Maybe even simply because of the color of your hair. So what happens when we're no longer considered cute or believed to be useful? Well, today we're no longer satisfied with being treated like our mothers and our grandmothers, who unfortunately hauled around some obviously gender-biased ageisms that negatively affected the senior women of our past, and they affected it for them for years. And today, our guest asserts that it's the right time for women like us to fuel the spark that ignites our way forward, illuminates our path, and reflects our gifts as what she calls modern matriarchs. And in this episode of Edge of Fulfillment, join us as we explore the idea of something called prime spark and how we can live a more fulfilled life. This is going to be a powerful conversation because in past times and in ancient places, women were revered for speaking the truth and for their wisdom. Resolutely, they stood strong for their families. They were powerful, insightful social contributors. Senior women were respected throughout the community and throughout society. And then somewhere along the line in history, patriarchy got out of control and women started to be seen as the weaker gender, something that as we got older, we could be discarded, disrespected, or dishonored. I wonder, is it any wonder that our world is in crisis? Because nature abhors imbalance, and she does just about anything to right the wrongs. Well, today's guest knows very well that it's our time to shine and that we are on the cusp of major social change. And really, can there be any doubt? So this is a very exciting time to be alive because women once again are beginning to stand up and declare we will be seen for who we are. We are dynamic, involved, contributing, and powerful people. And senior women are desirable and vital. We are the matriarchs, and we must be included in the highest level of decision-making, planning, forecasting to get the world back on track. Senior women need to become revered again as indispensable leaders for families. And it's wise to seek out those who are in their prime for roles that they can step into in the advancing years, because those women can make major contributions to upcoming generations. They make contributions to our families, to our communities, and it's based on a lifetime of experience. And you can't buy that. You have to earn it. And senior women can continue to do that for many years in the future. And this is why this episode is titled Prime Spark. It's our time. And the one thing I know for sure is that any woman wants to shine brightly at any age. She must feel valued and that she's doing something really important, something that lights her up. Good morning, Ellen. So good to see you. And puts a smile on her face. Good morning, Sherry. You've always got a wonderful smile on your face. And you too, Angeline. It's so lovely to see you all here. All these beautiful Prime Spark women. And we're going to find out more about what that's talking about in just a few moments. Because one of the things that you can do as listeners and watchers of this show is participate to shape this episode into something that speaks to your heart. Every comment or podcast when it's download, if you're listening in the replay of Edge of Fulfillment, means that my company, Head Heart Synergy, has an opportunity to support a project through b1g1.com to make life better for someone in the world who needs it. And every comment, every download provides a day's access to fresh, clean water wherever it's needed most in the world. So I encourage you, please use the hashtag and the word question, or throw in a comment or a yes, and you create a better world for someone else as well. And I want to thank you for helping me to thank others. And and by the way, for those I haven't met yet, I'm Lorraine Lapointe, and I'm host of Edge of Fulfillment, and I'm passionate about supporting compassionate, service-minded women who often by the time they reach their 40s or 50s, they begin to notice that they've developed a habit of giving too much to too many for too long. They're just expected to give in or give up or go along just to keep the peace. And many have tried all sorts of things and come up empty, believing that by now they would have found some better answers. However, after all the years of self-sacrifice, what I found is that what women really want to find is that inner balance. They want to transform the negative, toxic self-talk so that they can feel calm and confident and in control. They want to feel like they're free to build healthy relationships within a life they love. If you know what I'm talking about, just throw a yes in the chat and let's get those days rolling of fresh water for others in the world. So I want to thank you for being with us today. And at the end of the show, I'll also post a link to a free quiz so that you can tell what the number one focus is that would improve your life satisfaction score. So listen and watch for that. And another thing that I know is that we all love to win. And our first prize today, of course, is meeting our guest, Sarah Hart. But before I introduce her, let me congratulate Sherry Bergman. Sherry is the winner of a personal coaching session with last week's guest, who was Barbara Cates, who spoke to us about debunking the myths of dating over 40. Because last week, Sherry took note of the 5 special words that she heard sprinkled throughout the show and the conversation, and she added them to the comments at the end of the show. So this week, it's your turn. Yes, Sherry, congratulations. This week, it's your turn. Simply keep track of the words, and at the end of the show, I'll ask you to add them into the comments or to email them to me with the subject line contest to be eligible to win this week's prize, which is a book called Prime Spark, written by our guest, Sarah Hart. So I'm interested and eager and excited to introduce you to our guest, who believes it's our time so we can stand up and be counted, for the wisdom and experience and the insights that we have that really matter. And just before I do that, please write down our first term. It's actually 2 words together, Prime Spark. And to give you a little time to write that down or invite family and friends to join us, we're going to take a little break, so stay with us. You are listening to The Edge of Fulfillment on W4WN Women for Women Network Radio and Talk for TV, and we will be right back.
Did you know video is the future on content? There are 3 good reasons why video is the future of content. Number 1, videos are often more engaging than simple pictures or music alone. Number 2, it's much easier to tell your story through video. Number 3, because we love to watch video, they go viral much faster. Hey, notice you're still watching right now. See how well it works. Next time we can play your video here instead. Ask me how. Shine online on Talk 4 TV and W4WN Radio.
Hey, are you looking for a brighter future? Wishing for greater calm, clarity, and confidence? What if you knew an inside job was the answer? Your mission: stop the inner burn, gain mental fitness so you get more out of life. Imagine in about 15 minutes a day for just 6 weeks. Come on, we'll show you how. Don't miss it. Just go to www.lorraine.gives/mfitness and join us right now.
Hey, welcome back. So a quick recap for those joining us at the moment. We're running a contest today to win a copy of an award-winning book written by today's guest called Prime Spark. And you've already heard the first of the 5 terms or words that you will need to put in the comments at the end to be eligible for the draw for this week's contest. And the first term actually is Prime Spark. So listen for the 4 other words as we continue here. Good morning, Maria. And here on the Edge of Fulfillment on W4WN, the Women for Women Network Radio and Talk for TV. Now I want to bring out our guests so that you can meet Sarah. Let me tell you a little about her. Dr. Sarah Hart empowers women in their prime to stay relevant in a quickly changing world. She's been described as diverse, dynamic, and driven. Sarah's a lifelong advocate for social change, and she's an inspirational, motivational speaker who passionately provides controversial, cutting edge, and thought-provoking ideas about the power of older women. She's the author of the book Prime Spark, and she wants to help us thrive and transform how culture looks at women who are in their prime. And she believes it's our time to step forward and redefine who we are and what we offer. And so let's bring her out. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Lorraine.
It's so good to have you here.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, now I've told viewers and listeners a little about your book, and I understand your passion is about furthering the movement of Prime Spark to highlight the importance of senior women, but there's a juicy story behind all of this. So where would you like to begin?
Well, it's a story about my visit to a doctor. I had noticed that my calves were hurting when I walked, and my mother had this. And so I knew it was something I needed to pay attention to. So I went to this doctor, and I was sitting in his office, and he came into the exam room where I was. He was holding an iPad or some kind of a tablet, and he never looked at me. He never looked up. He just looked at the tablet. And I know what he was seeing is old woman, leg pain. And I think that's all he saw. So we talked, and he said, well, how do you notice the pain? I said, well, I notice it when I'm walking. And he said, well, how far do you walk? And I said, well, I like to walk as close to 10,000 steps a day as I can. And he said, I have patients who can't walk to the mailbox and back. What you need to do is find a walking path where there are benches so you can sit down. I didn't say, although I wish I had, George, Last year, I did the California AIDS Life Cycle Ride. It's a bicycle ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles, 545 miles. Do not tell me to find a path with benches.
Oh my.
I know. So when I left the office, I thought, this is not okay. This is how way too often older women are treated. And this has to change. Because look at us. We're different. We're not the way that we're portrayed. And we don't always need benches. Some of us do, but a lot of us
Nothing
don't.
wrong with the odd bench, but after maybe a 20K run.
Exactly. Exactly. So that was when it sort of struck me, okay, this can't keep happening. This is not right. This has to change.
So go on, Sarah. What was your next step? I'm curious.
Well, I was working with a coach and I said, I got to do something about this. I can't let this keep happening. And so this was over several sessions. And she said, well, how the golden years. I said, no. We went through all these different names for the what I had in mind. And finally I said, it's about being in the prime of our lives, because we are. When women turn 50, 55, we're entering the prime of our lives. That didn't used to be true.
Well, 50s is the new 35, right?
Oh yeah, but it's true, because we have gained 30 years of adult lifetime. And so we have an entire new adult lifetime. At 50, we can absolutely assume, if we can stay healthy, that we'll live another 30, 35, 40 years.
And productively. I'd love to hear from our viewers at the moment. Do you consider yourself in the prime of your life, or do you consider yourself like in decline? Like it's almost as if there's two different modes of thought. Is that where we're going here, Sarah? Is people sometimes think, they turn 40, 50, 55, whatever the number is, and they suddenly feel like they're in decline.
Well, because that's what we're told. We're told that. I mean, think of the images we have. I mean, if you look at, I was going through a magazine the other day and realized that the pictures of older women were all pictures of women needing help. There were like daughters helping them do something, or looking at retirement village circulars, or some offering, the doctor offering medication. So that's what we're taught. And that's, for women inside organizations, that's how they feel. That once you get to 45, 50, 55, you're sort of overlooked. You're pretty much done in terms of your usefulness.
Is that, I mean, it kind of coincides with menopause for some. Yeah, Sherry, absolutely in the prime. Good for you, Sherry.
Wonderful, Sherry.
Yeah. Do you think that that's the key? Is that because is it the menopausal piece that signals that, kind of, not that life is over, but
well,
we're heading into our uselessness?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how our society sees us, that is when we stop being useful. We're no longer cute. We're no longer sexy. We can't even any longer have babies. So what are we good for?
I love Sherry's attitude here. I'm just starting again. And I'm not
Sherry.
And I'm not sure. And I should mention that, well, and I won't mention Sherry's age. She can mention if she wants. But I was going to say, not all men feel that way about women. that they're over the hill, that they're useless, that like fertility does not mean the end of our usefulness is the words that I'm feeling right now. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in terms of, I mean, what we're talking about is gendered ageism.
Say more.
And in no isms does everybody see that person that's being characterized with that ism as negative or useless or whatever. I mean, it isn't 100%. It's in general. It's how things are set up. It's how the things are messaged through books and magazines and movies.
Yeah, and there's Sherry. Okay, she outed herself. 73 and proud of it. And let me tell you, Sherry is a Tai Chi instructor. She does Qigong. She walks almost every day. She's so active and so alive and so involved and wise. She's amazing. Anyway, there are lots of amazing women. Actually, when one comes to mind that maybe we can discuss a little bit, and that's Betty White. She turned 99 in 2021.
Yes.
99 years old, and she is still a spitfire.
And there always are examples like that. And I think there are lots and lots and lots of women like that that don't have the notoriety that she does, so we don't know about them.
Well, another one with notoriety who I think is leading the way for women and their vitality, even with gray hair, is Judi Dench.
Oh, I love Judi Dench.
I mean, Dame Judi Dench. I mean, who does not have respect for that lady? You know, a couple of others come to mind too, like Jamie Lee Curtis and Glenn Close, and some of these women are they're leading the way. They're showing us.
Yes, absolutely.
You're not done. You know, menopause is not the end.
That's right.
Actually a whole new beginning.
And a lot of us know that. And what we need to do is say so loudly, because that we need to make a big change in how we're viewed and treated. And this is coming. It's coming. It is beginning to happen. We see more women cast in appropriate roles. So we now sometimes see older women cast in older women roles rather than younger women made to look older.
Yeah, and I love that comment from John just now, and that is that it's just a number and it does not have to reflect your state of mind or your well-being.
Right.
You know, it is just a number. I remember standing in the bathroom when I was 15 and my mom was putting on her makeup and she was what I considered old. At 15, everyone's old. And I said to her, Mom, I said, how does it feel to be your age? And of course, I was not kind. I said, because you're so old. and I remember her statement to me, and she says, I feel just like you. I've just done more stuff.
Oh, brilliant.
And that has stuck with me forever. So every time I have an experience now, I go, wow, I feel just the same as I did when I was 15 or 18 or in my what culture calls prime. But I've just done more stuff. I'm wiser in many respects. I'm also more willing to take risks that I wouldn't have taken when I was young.
Yes.
And I don't mean the kind of risks like running out into traffic. I mean, you know, sometimes when we're young, we're so busy with our children and building things and you know, amassing things in our life that we don't feel confident. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we give in, we give up, we go along, we you know, to keep the peace, we give and we give and we give too much to too many for too long. We're too nice.
Right.
And we end up saying yes to everything when we should say no to a few things. I mean, one of the things that we do say no to, though, is ourselves. We don't often, when we're younger, look at ourselves. But that's one of the gifts of getting older, I find. And have you seen that too, Sarah? I'd love to know more about the prime spark movement that you're talking about, and what specifically women can do to ensure that they are focused on their prime spark.
Right. Well, that one of the things that occurs to me while you were talking, Lorraine, is I've spoken to lots of women, and just as you said, when I ask women, "Are you aware of getting older?" Almost across the board, they will say, "I'm aware of body changes. So, when things have changed, I can't quite do all the things I could do in the way I could do them, or have some aches that I didn't have before. But other than that, I feel better. I feel more. I feel more of who I am." And so the experience, if we will really pay attention to it, and if we're healthy, is one of getting more so. I think many women, when they get to age 50, 55, think, "I'm sure there's something more for me to do."
What's next? Is this all there is?
Yes, a lot of us at that point are at a time when our children have left home. They may come back, but they've left.
They do that these days, don't they? They leave. Like, when I left home, I'd left home. But these days, it seems that kids leave and then they come back, and then they come back.
But they don't need us in the same way that they did. And some of us get caught in between taking care of children and taking care of parents, and that can happen. But we get to a point where I think there's more for me to do. I just think so.
Yeah, you're welcome, Sherry. Sherry's got to go. But yeah. So, and Angeline says she found her true calling and started a podcast to break the silence on domestic abuse. Yes. And she runs an amazing podcast, and now she'll be launching her new group coaching in September. That's awesome, Angeline. Like stepping into the desire, stepping into that's what I was talking about, the risk. It's not truly risk. It's an awakening. Like this show is called Midlife Awakening at the Edge of Fulfillment. I mean, it's a long title, so we call it Edge of Fulfillment. But Midlife Awakening, it's an invitation to start to shine. Am I getting the right sense of the movement?
Yes, absolutely, Lorraine. It's from when I describe it, what I describe is it's finding that spark, or reigniting that spark. Or meeting that spark, going there, finding it now in the prime of our lives, which is why I call it prime spark. And what can we do? You had asked me what we could do, and there are things we can do. One of the things we can do, and we can start doing it today, is not putting up with gendered ageist comments.
Oh, can you give us some examples?
Well, we don't any longer say, "That was a senior moment," or "over the hill," or we use words in such a way, and we hear words. We don't anymore put up with sexist comments, racist comments, but we still seem to have it be okay to make ageist comments. And so I would invite you to listen for it, because we're oftentimes not even aware of it. So listen for it, and don't say it ourselves. So never again do we say a senior moment. I mean, 30-year-olds forget things too. Well,
that's a little secret I will agree to and expose at the moment, is I had a terrible memory even when I was 30. Right. So it's not a senior moment, it's just a Lorraine moment.
Right. And we can also, the other thing I think is fun to do, go to the card store, the drugstore, wherever you get your greeting cards, and look at all of the cards that are denigrating older women. So they're little old women. And then inside there's something funny. But it's not funny. We are denigrating ourselves when we buy those and send them. And we need to stop doing that. One of the things Prime Spark is doing is we're getting ready to design and launch a new line of anti-gendered ageist greeting cards.
Oh, awesome.
So it's, quote, little, unquote, stuff like that is so ingrained that we don't even see it. But that was true of sexism too, and it's not true anymore. And so we can do exactly the same thing with this. I sometimes think of this, Lorraine, as the second women's movement in my lifetime. There have been other women's movements, but in my lifetime, this is the second one. The first one was in the 60s and 70s.
That was the burning of the bras.
It was the burning. Well, what I remember vividly is walking down Fifth Avenue in New York City, twirling my bra out in front of me. I didn't burn it. I didn't have much money then.
So you didn't burn it, but you did twirl it.
I did twirl it.
Anybody else who's listening or watching remember the burning of the bras or the twirling of the bras?
And I don't know that what we do this time will be as much in your face as that. Gloria Steinem has this wonderful quotation that is, sometime, I can't remember it exactly, but very quietly, an army of gray-haired women will quietly take over the earth. And that's what will happen.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I missed that.
It will be quiet as compared with walking down Fifth Avenue, marching and chanting and twirling bras. This one will be quiet, but it is coming. It is right on the horizon.
Yeah, and I mentioned in the introduction to this show, I mean, I don't know when it happened, and I'm sure somebody knows out there, and if you do, let us know here. But at some point, the patriarchal concept of women being weak and the feminine being weak came into vogue and became a cultural norm. And that it's really, I mean, when I think back to how my grandmother was treated, not so much my mom was a bit of a prime spark, but my grandmother and the women that came before her, I mean, the men thought they were, all that and a whole lot more. And the put downs, the denigration, the discounting, the discarding, it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. And one of the shocking things for me, and this is women in general, not just older women, but in the United States, we still cannot get past the Equal Rights Amendment. It has not passed in Congress. Still.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yep. True.
And as you said, it'll be a quiet revolution. It'll be a quiet gray hair, if you choose to have gray hair, revolution.
Yes. Because
the world needs rebalancing. Mother Nature abhors imbalance, and there has been a huge imbalance between, and I'm not talking about men versus women. I'm talking about the masculine versus the feminine concept about how to live. This striving for materialism, this discarding of people as unimportant or that people don't matter. That's very male and masculine. It's patriarchal. And it disregards the counterbalance of the feminine, which is the mothering, the care for people, the recognition that emotion is okay, and it's emotion is actually a lot of strength. I mean,
oh, absolutely. I have great hope for the upcoming generations, it seems to me that they have a better sense of taking people for whom they are, and that there's more allowance for variety.
Yes, and I think, and I want to champion the women who have raised this generation,
Yes.
who are more tolerant, more open. And we've actually mentioned a few of our special words, which, I mean, the show is going on. So let me give you a couple more of the special words that you need to jot down today. One is women, and another word is empower. So we've had 3 of the 5 words. So we've had prime spark, women, and empower. And I'd love to hear more about the prime spark movement and what women can do to help this move forward.
Right. I think a lot of it initially, Lorraine, is awareness. And that's what I keep stressing for women I work with, that before we can make our case in the world, many of us need to prepare ourselves to be in the world stronger, more dynamic, willing to step forward, willing to say, that's not who I am. This is who I am. And so some of it is an inside job. And that's where we start. And then I think it is things like becoming aware. We are aware of this, but becoming even more aware of how we are portrayed in the media, because that is teaching us. It's teaching little girls. So become aware of the ads you see in the magazines, and page after page of women in their 20s wearing size 2, and they're gorgeous. But let the advertisers know you don't appreciate that. Let the companies know who pay for those ads. I mean, we have a huge economic buying power, and we need to use it
to rebalance things,
to get things like that changed. And so it is becoming aware, being, absolutely willing to step forward and say, that's not who I am. I don't appreciate that talk. Please don't do that around me. Standing up for one another.
Oh, there's a huge piece.
Yes.
Yes. And being willing not to accept.
Right.
The put downs, the discounting, I mean, that doctor at the beginning in your story.
Right.
I mean, number one, he shouldn't treat anyone like that.
No.
I mean, that's not good bedside manner at all. And number two, I mean, to how insulting. He knew nothing about you, and to assume that you needed a park bench.
Right.
When you walk. I'm assuming that you got that problem solved and you're still walking and active.
Oh, I'm still walking, yes. And I just as a follow-up to that story, when I was leaving his office, he said I should make a follow-up appointment. And so I went out to the reception desk and said, I need a follow-up appointment, but I'd rather have it with another doctor. And the receptionist looked at me and said, why? And I said, I don't like him.
And I would hope that you also mentioned that, exactly what it is. It's not so much I don't like him, but he did not look at me. He
Right.
did not understand my situation. He didn't get to know me. He made an assumption about who I was based on, as you said, ageism and being and the gendered ageism.
Right.
You're an old lady, so you can't do much.
Right. Unfortunately, Lorraine, I didn't say any of that.
No.
It was my awakening. And
so it was the impetus for your book.
I wasn't prepared. Now I am. I wasn't prepared to say anything more than I don't like him. And since then, I mean, this was several years ago now, since then, I can't tell you the number of times I have my major conversations with people in the shower. And I have had several conversations.
It's amazing how busy our showers can be. I mean, a lot of people in there.
Well, I am so brave in the shower. You know, I think of all these wonderful comebacks, and I think of all these wonderful things I could have, should have, would have said to him now. Things I should have said to the receptionist. But
I call that positive rehearsal.
Right.
So although you didn't say it at the time, you're positive rehearsing it. So the next time the opportunity is presented, you know, the words are more likely to come out of your mouth. The more, you know, you have thought it through and you know how you want to stand. Right. So that's why I call it positive rehearsal.
I love it.
Rehearsal. Yeah.
I think we can also really become aware of the people who we spend a lot of time with, how they see us and treat us, because that may not be okay either. And that's going to be some of the hardest to confront. But that is so important, because how people see and treat us has such a direct impact on how we see and treat ourselves. And so we need to be aware not only of how we're feeling and who we are for ourselves and what we see for ourselves and what we dream for ourselves. We need to also be aware of the people who are closest around us, our partners, our spouses, our children, our best friends, I don't know, do we have social circles anymore now that we're all online? But our social circles.
Well, I see the same stuff happening online as happens face to face quite often. And so there are opportunities to ignite, you know, and let people know about the passion of I'm in my prime and I don't want to be discarded, denigrated, disrespected.
Right. And we need to say those things. We can say them first, gently. And if that doesn't work, then we don't say them gently after that. We mean it. And there are times, and this is very sad, but there are times when relationships we've had may not work for us anymore. So if you see where you really feel yourself going and who you are and who you love to think about being and what you see that you have ahead of you that you need to do for yourself and for others. And if friends you've had are just not doing that, don't see that, don't want to go there, don't want to be there, don't want you to be there, then it may be time to get other circles of friends. It may be time to get other people who really support you, who see your dreams, who aren't threatened by your strength, because sometimes totally unconsciously, and they don't mean it, but people hold us back because they don't want us to change. Because as we change relationships. And they may feel threatened. And so we really need to think about it carefully and to take a stand about who I am at this time in my life, where I want to be going, what I want to be doing, who I am becoming, and there's no stopping me. This is it. This is what I'm doing. If you want to come along, that's fine, but I'm doing this. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's what we need to do. That's who we are.
Well, I say take a look around you and the 5 people that you hang out with the most. And whoever it is that you hang out with the most, that is a reflection of you. So if they're old and crotchety and they are caught up in the idealism of like they can't do things and they're stuck and they're negative, then that is a reflection of who you become. So I love that advice, because sometimes that is not who you are, and that's not who you want to become. So, and people will react negatively when you want to step into something that is empowering and you want to make a change,
Oh, absolutely.
because they're so used to you not being that way. And that doesn't make it wrong.
I heard an interesting interview with Richard Leider the other day, and if you're not familiar with Richard Leider, you need to be. This is to our listeners.
Yeah, well, is anyone out there familiar with Richard Leider? Go ahead and say, yes, if you are familiar, and if you're not, then listen up.
He just has published a new book called "Who Do You Want to Be When You Get Old?" And he specifically phrased it that way because he thought when we're young, he said one of the first things adults ask us when we're young is, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said it comes to a time in your life when the what is not important anymore. It's who.
Yeah.
Who do you want to be when you get old? And his publisher said to him, "Richard, you can't use the word old. It doesn't sell." And he said, "That's exactly why I want to use the word old, because we're going to change how that word feels." He said, "You're either young or you're old.
Whether you're 6 or 60. I've met some very old 6-year-olds.
Well, I've met some very old 40-year-olds and some very young. I have a friend who's 89 and skis.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
all of us won't have lives like that. And all of us don't need to ski or run triathlons or marathons, but some of us do. Anyway, so I love this, that he's repurposing the word old, because I have spent a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to think of a very positive word for old women, older women, because some women I've spoken to have gotten actually angry with me about Prime Spark. And finally it will come out. They will say, "I don't want to think about getting older."
Oh, so they have an attitude about getting older.
Right. And it's been fascinating. I'm sort of alert for this now. Initially, I didn't know what was going on until somebody said, "I don't want to think about getting older." Oh, okay. Now I understand. And I said to this woman, "Well, we all hope you will get older. I mean, it's better than the alternative."
If you're not getting older, as my father used to say, "At least I woke up today on the right side of the grass." You want to be older.
You want to be older. It is actually a gift.
It is a gift.
So many people in this world who don't have the luxury of getting older.
Yeah.
We have the luxury of getting older.
And there are a number of people too that I not so gently call waiting to die. Like, like the dying is a mere formality because they've been practicing it for so long. But every day that you have breath, every day that you wake up on the right side of the grass is an opportunity for you. And some people aren't well, and that's, it's more about who you are on the inside,
right,
than any physical piece or anything on the outside. I hear what you're saying so strongly. And unfortunately, we are running right out of time. So I just want to thank you so much, Sarah, for bringing Prime Spark to our attention. And as we have shown, you can reach Sarah with her email, or that's Sarah Hart at Heart. Is it heartcom.com?
Yes.
Okay. Sarah Hart at heartcom.com, and or your website, which is primesparkwomen.com.
Yes.
Awesome. And I want to thank you so much for taking that time to be with us today,
Oh, thank
Sarah,
you.
and for bringing that inspiration to us. And we forgot to tell the listeners the last couple of words. So I'm going to tell them to you all right now so that you can put them in the chat. It's women, prime spark, empower, ignite, and future. And yes, thank you for putting that URL up for that quiz. I promised a quiz at the top of the show. So if our producer could please put that back in right there on the ticker. Thank you so much. Best Life Quiz at Lorraine.link. And I am your show host, Lorraine Lapointe, and it's with Head Heart Synergy, reminding you that at the edge of fulfillment, there's always a choice. You can stay on the edge and get what you've always got, or you can become courageous and move beyond the edge and get what you really want. And I want to thank you, Sarah, and we'll see everyone else next week.
Thank you, Lorraine. This was great fun.
Okay, bye for now.